Hi, my name is Lucas Brumbacher, and I'm going to be presenting my disaster, the Deepwater Horizon oil spill that occurred on April 20th, 2010 in the Gulf of Mexico, where a blowout occurred on this rig, which allowed for millions of barrels of crude oil to be dumped into the Gulf of Mexico for almost a period of 3 months. As you can imagine, this created numerous environmental impacts, all negative and terrible consequences for the environment. BP, the company that owned the oil rig, had to do some work with government cleanup initiatives in order to even try to contain this amount of oil. But unfortunately, the size of the spill itself made it extremely difficult. And the devastation of this event showed us the power almost of spills like these and how they affect the environment and the dangers that are involved with offshore drilling. So the story about what happened, as I mentioned earlier a little bit, the oil rig had a blowout. A blowout is when methane gas escapes from the rig and kind of explodes out in columns and gets ignited, and this ignites the rest of the methane gas that's in the air and ultimately leads to an explosion. The reason that this happened, at least the main reason, and I'll go over who else is at fault too in a second, is the blowout preventer device that malfunctioned and was not able to seal off the methane gas at a good enough level, and this led to the methane gas escaping and being ignited. So who else is at fault? As I mentioned, the device that was malfunctioning is also to be at fault, but there are two companies mainly who are at fault, one of them being Transocean and the other being Halliburton. Halliburton was in charge of the concrete pouring for the oil rig, and they did not pour their concrete well enough to seal off hydrocarbons from seeping through and also ruining the seal that the device would have to make with the concrete, as well as being ignited in the air. And then Transocean, who owned and operated the oil rig, did not do their due diligence as operators. They did not keep up on maintenance well enough, did not do enough procedured checks to make sure that everything was running well, and this is partly why the oil rig had such a terrible accident. And then above all, BP is definitely having most of the blame, since they did not do their due diligence as the mother company for this project, and they did not make sure that everything was operational and up to date, maybe. The impact on the environment, as you can imagine, is awful. Coastal habitats, marine life expectancy, and bird and wildlife habitats were all destroyed all over the coast of the Gulf of Mexico, as well as the deeper parts of the water, which were also infected with the oil. This means, unfortunately, that a lot of the surrounding area around the oil spill itself is permanently damaged and pretty much decimated as of now, and they may never return to their former glory, but if they do, it'll take a long time. Scientists are still monitoring the effects of the oil spill to this day to try and learn more about the long-term effects maybe of oil spills and other environmental disasters such as this. The mitigation techniques that were used for this disaster were many different at the same time. One of the main ones was the use of booms strategically placed around the oil. A boom is a floating piece of plastic or metal that blocked off the oil from spreading out and allowed them to channel the oil so it could be then chemically treated with mostly with the chemical Corexit, which sped up the microbial degradation of the oil, and this led to the oil essentially disappearing and being dissipated, such as their own photosynthesis cycle. And then controlled burns also took off when there was large areas of oil on the surface of the water. Now, this also has its environmental concerns, but the pros and cons versus having the oils continuing to destroy the ecosystem in the water or being burned off, it made more sense to burn off the oil. Lastly, some mechanical recovery devices were used, such as skimmers attached to boats, which collected the oil and brought it offshore so they could destroy it or clean it or whatever they were going to do with the oil. And although these mitigation techniques all face challenges, it showed how both governments, companies, private companies, and the government, can come together and help to minimize the effects of such disasters of the spill. And it helped to underscore the importance of ongoing research for disasters such as these. And my sources that I used were the U.S. National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration Deepwater Horizon Incident Accident article, the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency Deepwater Horizon oil spill article, the Deepwater Horizon Gulf of Mexico oil spill from Britannica, and the National Geographic Deepwater Horizon oil spill from the National Geographic, and lastly, the BBC News Deepwater Horizon oil spill article. Thank you.